Hello everyone. So today we'll be starting with chapter 4, which is gender, religion, and caste. In the previous chapter, we noted that the existing existence of social diversity does not threaten democracy. Political expression of social differences is possible and sometimes quite desirable in a democratic system. In this chapter, we will apply the ideas to the practice of democracy in India. We look at the three kinds of social differences, that can take form of social divisions and inequalities. How they can social differences just because you are different from somebody, because your social practices are different, your culture is different, or sometimes even your region is different, so you tend to be a little different from the other people, and that sometimes might lead to social division and inequalities. Let's see that these are social differences based on gender, whether we talk it about gender, religion, caste base. In each case, we look at the nature of this division in India and how it gets expressed in politics. Everything, politics, you might have heard this term dirty politics, where they tend to use such difference in everything to instigate people and eventually gain votes, the main aim. Not everybody does it, but yes, some politicians do that. We also ask whether different expressions based on these differences are healthy or otherwise. We also discuss whether these kind of differences which exist in a society are good or bad. In the last three chapters that we did, whether we talked about Belgium, whether we talked about Nether Islands, okay, and so for the first chapter, power sharing, then we talked about federalism, then we talked about democracy and diversities. So these were all actually examples of how power sharing is done. So these three chapters were related to each other in the sense that what if there is a moment, yeah, this gain of moment where people say that we want equal representation, we need more power and everything, and how it's done. We saw the example of Belgium, then we saw the example of Sri Lanka, then we saw the example of Netherlands and Northern Ireland, and we got a comparison between all that. Okay, coming back to our chapter 4, let's start. So here is gender and politics. Let's see how they are linked and everything. A poster from the Bengal affirming women's strength. I really can't read out what is it because I think it's written in Bangla. Anyways, let us begin with gender division. This is a form of hierarchical social divisions in everywhere, but it is rarely recognized in the study of politics. The gender division tends to be understood as natural and unchangeable. A lot of times we've seen that gender we just treat it like not a big issue. We just think that it is natural and it is unchangeable. However, it is not based on the idea of biology, but on social expectations and stereotypes that we as a society have created. So, why are we discussing things like household work in the textbook on political science? Is this politics? Why not? If politics is about power, then surely male dominance in the household should be considered politics. We every time we say that, see, political, when we talk about political science, we take the view of this whole political system that is built in a society, whether this is gendered or the otherwise. So we have to look at it not only from one perspective but from many. Okay, now let's see public and private division. Boys and girls are brought up to believe that the main responsibility of women is household and bringing children. This is reflected in the sexual division of labor. So you divide the divide this work sexually wise. Okay, that since this is actually called sexual division of labor. In most families, women do not do all work inside the house, such as cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, tailoring, looking after children, etc., and men do all the work outside the home. uh, is it not that men cannot do household work? They simply think that it is for women to attend to these things. When these jobs are when these jobs are paid for, men are ready to take up these works. Most tailors or cooks in hotels are men. Similarly, it is not that women do not work outside their home. In villages, women fetch water, collect fuel, work in the field. In urban areas, poor women work as domestic helpers in middle class homes, while middle class women work in offices. In fact, the majority of women do some sort of paid work in addition to the domestic labor, but the recognition is not valued and does not get recognition. But there, a lot of times we take household work, we do not recognize it and we do not value it. But sometimes just do this as a task, that manage everything, all the household work by yourself, and then you'll realize that whoever does the household work in your family actually goes through a lot. Then we talk about the result of this division of labor is that although women constitutes half of the humanity, their role in public life, especially politics, is minimal to in most uh, societies. Earlier, only men were allowed to participate in public affairs, vote, and contest for public offices. Gradually, the gender issue was raised in politics. Women in different parts of the world organized and agitated for equal rights. There were agitations in different countries for the extension of voting rights to women. These agitations dependent. These agitations demanded enhancing the political and legal status. Agitations demanded enhancing the political and legal status of women, improving their educational and career opportunities. More radical women's movement aimed at at equality in personal and family life as well. These movements are called feminist movements. So there's this difference, between feminist and when we talk about the other, we'll talk later. Then what does feminist mean? If you look at the glossary, then it's a woman or a man who believes in equal rights and opportunities for men and women. So a lot of times we think that if you say that you are a feminist, then you might believe that only women might. A lot of times it's a it's a myth that a lot of people believe that being a feminist mean that you believe that opportunities should be given to women only. But being a feminist means that there should be equal opportunity, whether you are equal opportunity and rights, whether you are man, whether you are women, irrespective of gender. And what is sexual division of labor means? It is a system in which all the work, so you divide, there's a division that you'll divide, there's a clear cut division that you'll do this work, you'll do that work. So sexual division of labor is a system in which all the work inside the house is either done by the women of the family or organized by them through domestic helpers. So sexual division of the labor, this is what here it means, in this sense that you decide that this is the work that inside the house will be done by you or under you. Okay, so political expression of gender divisions and political mobilization on this question helped to improve. Sorry, we are here. Helped to improve women's role in public life. We now find women working as scientists, doctors, engineers, lawyers, managers in college and in university, teachers, which were earlier not considered suitable for women. In some parts of the world, for example, Scandinavian countries such as Sweden, Norway, Finland, the participation of women in public life is very high. So, what do you think is the perception of being an ideal woman? Let's see. To the TV serial makers, it is that they are the ideal viewer to the society. It's they think that that person, woman, should be an ideal housewife. To the fashion industry, they are seen as the ideal beauty. Whereas to the perspective in laws, they are seen as ideal bride. To the employer and male employees, they are seen as the ideal wives. Which one of these is you? So out of all these ones, which one you? Or which one is you? Discuss all the perceptions of ideal women that prevail in a society. Do you agree with any of these? If not, what is your image of ideal woman? So what is your image? What do you think that makes, what are the characteristics that makes a woman ideal? I think this is not, I am saying for women in general. I'm saying like for anybody. Like I'm saying this for a human being. Everybody is perfect in their own imperfect ways. And this is not, I'm saying in especially for women. I'm saying for an individual, any person, he, she, may, they, whatever pronoun they would like to be called as. So that's what it is. And if you see, look at the Scandinavian countries, and for example Switzerland, Finland, and Norway, then you will see that the participation of women is very high. Also, I would like to state here that every year there's this happiness index, and Scandinavian countries, they tend to perform really good in happiness index. In our country, women still lag much behind man, despite some improvements in independence. Ours is still a male dominated patriarchal society. Women face disadvantage, discrimination, and oppression in various ways. Patriarchal means something related to, which is to father, then it's patriarchal. If we talk about matriarchal, then it's the mother lineage that goes. Okay. If we talk in terms of statistics, then the literacy rate among women is only 54% compared with 76% among men. So you can see, similarly, a smaller proportion of girl students go to higher studies, whereas it is very less as compared to the boy students. When we look at school results, girls perform as well as boys, if not better in some places. But they drop out because parents prefer to spend their resources for their boys' education rather than spending equally on their sons and daughters. The second statistics, if you talk about, or that thing we talk about, no wonder the proportion of women among the highly paid and valued job is still very small. On an average, Indian women work 1 hour more than an average man every day if we compare. Yet, much of our work is not paid and therefore not valued. So, women do so many kinds of work which are not paid, especially the household work. The Equal Wages Act provides that equal wages should be paid to equal work. If two persons, A and B, A is a male, B is a female, then if they are working for the same hours in the same office in the same environment, everything, then they should be paid the same amount. However, in almost on all areas of work, from sports to cinema to factories and fields, women are paid less than men, even when both do exactly the same. So why being discriminated on this factor, that maybe just because you are from different genders, so that is why you are being paid differently for the same job. In many parts of India, parents prefer to have sons and find ways to have a girl child aborted before she is born. Such sex selective abortions lead to a decline in the child sex ratio. So a lot of times you'll see that people prefer to abort their child, knowing that it's a girl, and that is why it affects our child sex ratio. That is the number of girls per thousand boys. Our country is merely in the country to merely 933. So, matlab for 1,000 boys we have only 933. Okay, can you identify four districts? Identify your district on this map, which is the, what is the child sex ratio of it? How does it different from other states in with a different color? Identify the states which where most districts have child sex ratio below 850. So below 850 is here. This one, a little pale green. This one, lighter green. This is one. These ones are the districts which have say child sex ratio below 850. Compare this map with the poster on the next page, and how do the two of them tell us about the same issue? We can, yeah. So let's see that. Um, uh, Compare this map with the poster on the next page. How do the two tell about the same poster? So this is the poster they are talking about. It says "We Can South Asia Regional Campaign and All Violence Against women. 50 million women missing in South Asia due to different um I don't know what's written here. Violence and discrimination. Okay, so due to different violation, and maybe this violation here we are talking about in terms of gender. That just because one is male, the other is female, and there's preference for the son child, and that's how this differentiation and the child sex ratio is disturbed. Okay, now let us talk here, okay. We'll discuss this map also. So here on this map you can see the child sex ratio. uh, for the white ones we don't have the data because they are not part of India. This is on Nepal, Bhutan and Bangladesh. Then if we talk about in terms of child sex ratio, then below 800, that's the lowest sex ratio, below 800. Here you can see this part. This is Haryana part, this one, all the red aliens, they have child sex ratio below 800, whereas the orange ones, like here and here, they are between 800 and 849. And similarly, whereas you see the darker green one here, these are 950 or above. You can see how progressive the northeast region is on this child sex ratio. Just see the patches of dark darker green color is more in the northeast. And even on here it's the you have the patches of dark green are more as compared to the light ones or the yellow ones, or red or orange. Okay, so in a time use survey was conducted in 6 states of our country. It shows that an average woman works every day for a little over 7.5 hours, while an average man works for 6.5 hours. So they are saying that men work for 6.5 hours, whereas they are saying that women, on the other hand, they work for 7.5 hours. Okay, so this is the sign for male. This is the sign for female. Okay, scientifically. Then yet the work done by men is more visible because most of the work leads to generation of income. Their work is, even when they work 1 hour less than the female, their work is more appreciated and recognized because they are being paid for it. Women also do a lot of direct income generating work, but the bulk of their work is household related. This work remains unpaid, and that is why this uh work most of the times, it remains unpaid and invisible. It's not recognized as much because as that of a male counterpart. Daily time use, if we talk about in hours and minutes, home generating activity 6 घंटे, then we have minutes, hours, and women 2 hours 40 minutes. Then household related work, that see, just look at the amount of household work men do, like 30 minutes only, whereas the women do 5 hours of housework. Talking gossip, they talk equally. It's not that one is more than the enough. In fact, if we talk about exact figure, then men talk 5 minutes more than women. If we talk about no work or leisure, then it's 3 hours 40 minutes for men, whereas for women it is 3 hours 50 minutes, only a difference of 10. So then we have sleep, self-care, reading, etc. That's 12 hours and 25 minutes for men, whereas it's only 11 hours and 10 minutes. So you can see the difference, and at what criteria men are above, sorry, and in what criteria men are above, and in which criteria they are low, and by what percentage. You can clearly, it's visible. You can conduct a similar time use survey in your household. Observe all the adult male and female members in your house each work every day. Do not the every day note down the number of hours each of them spends on the following activities: income generating in the, so you can do this similar for your house. So here it's given what is patriarchy means literally rule by father. This concept is used to refer to a system that values men more and gives them power over women. And similarly, that can be said from if there's a system of matriarchal, then there the literally it is a rule by mother. This concept was used to refer to a system that values women more and gives them more power. So you can apply it. Okay. Now, if you talk about mummy always says to outsiders, I do not work, I am a housewife, but I see her working non-stop all the time. Is what if what she does is not work, what else can what else is work? So here when a mother poor her mother says that she does not work, she's not counting her household work. She's saying that I do not do the work which earns income. So that's very sad, but yes, household work should be equally be considered important, because it takes time. It's not easy. It's not like it will take a click of a finger or half an hour, 1 hour to complete all the household work. It does not. It takes a lot of hours, to do that. And if you don't believe me, just try it for yourself and you will see the results. So now let's talk about here. We were here as the map shows that this ratio the has fallen to below 850 or even 800 in some place. You can see that sex child ratio is even 850 and below 800 in some other places. There are reports of various kinds of harassment, exploitation, violence, which is done against the women. Urban areas have become particularly unsafe for women. They are not safe even within their own home from beating, harassment, and other forms of domestic violence. Okay, there's so many forms in which the women is targeted, harassed, beaten, or there are other forms of domestic violence. If we talk about this map, women in national parliament in different regions of the world average is here. Hmm, यूरोप के लिए Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe member countries excluding Nordic countries. Note figures are for the percentage of women in the directly elected chambers of parliament as on 31st December 2011. Okay. Can you think of some reasons why women's representation is so low in India? Do you think Americas and Europes have achieved a satisfactory level of women representation in their parliaments? So India is so very low, yeah. It's 10.8, whereas the world average, at least the average of world is 19.7. So that is so clearly um, demarcation that we are quite far from the world average. At least Nordic countries again they have the maximum representation in the parliament, followed by America, Europe, and so on. But India is quite lacking here. We can see. So we see the percentage of women in politics. It's not more, but it's more in United States and Europe has more than India. Obviously, yes. Women's political representation, all of this is well known, yet issues related to women's well-being or otherwise are not given adequate attention. This has led to many feminist and women movements to the conclusion that um, unless women controls power, their problems will not get adequate attention. One way to ensure that this is to have that they have more power as elected representative. They are given power in the parliament also. In India, the proportion of women in legislative is very low. For example, the percentage of elected women members in the Lok Sabha has crossed um, has crossed 10% of the total strength for the first time in 2009. Their share in the state assemblies is less than 5%. In this respect, India is among the bottom group of nations. You can see it here, we've already discussed. India is behind the average of several developing countries of Africa and even Latin America. In the government and cabinets are largely all male. Even when a woman becomes largely male, even when a woman becomes the chief minister or the prime minister. One way to solve this problem is to make legally binding to have a fair proportion of women in the elected representative bodies. For example, we have one third reservation for women in local governance. This is what the Panchayati Raj system has done. One third of the seats in the local government in the Panchayat, as I told you, are now reserved for women. Now there are more than 10 lakh elected women representatives in rural and urban local bodies. Women's organizations and activists have been demanding a similar reservation of at least one third of seats in Lok Sabha and state assemblies for women. A bill with this proposal has been pending before the parliament for more than a decade, but there is no consensus over this. Uh, Over this among all the political parties. The bill has not been passed. Gender division is one big example. That some form of social division needs to be expressed in politics. This also shows that disadvantaged groups do benefit when social divisions become a political issue. Do you think that women could have made the gains we noted if the above, if their equal, if their unequal treatment was not raised in the public domain? So uh, here you can say, if casteism and communalism are bad, what makes feminism a good thing? Why don't we oppose all things who divide people on society on lines, uh, caste, religion, or gender? Feminism is a good thing because it talks about equal opportunities, whether for men or women, or for any other individual based on the gender wise. Even when we talk about the third gender. So this is the picture of parliament. The cartoon offers an understanding of why the women's bill has not been passed in the parliament. Do you agree with this reading? So here you can see, oh, don't worry, we'll find a way for you. Here you can see a woman standing with a poster saying that women's bill, and here you can see in all the gates one MLA is standing, and they're blocking the way for the entry. And that's actually why the bill is pending. They are, we can say, hiding away from it. If we talk about religion, communication and politics, then what is written here: not enough to shed tears, to shelter anguish, not enough to nurse love in secret. Today walk in the public square, fettered chains, in fact, public square, fettered in chains. So you can see women, you can see when this is the map, this is the flag of some country they're trying to show. And here you can see, mm now let us turn to a very different kind of social division, the division which is based on religious differences. We talked about gender division and how it leads to unequal treatment. Even when we talk in terms of their representation, unequal representation being given to people. The division is not as universal as gender, but religious diversity is fairly widespread in it is fairly widespread in the world today. Many countries, including India, have in India have in their population followers of different religions, as we noticed in the case of Northern Ireland. Even when most people belong to the same religion, there can be serious differences. For example, we saw Catholics and the Protestants, differences about the way people practice their religion. Some might believe some aspect of religion, whereas some might not believe in that aspect. Some might follow one leader of their religions, and some might follow the other leader of their religion, and that's how it is, you know. Unlike gender differences, the religious differences are often expressed in the field of politics. You know, you'll see so many people saying that uh we'll, if we talk about statistics, every time after the election we'll say that we will get to know that these many Hindus voted for this party, these many Muslims voted for that party, and these many Buddhists voted for this and that party. So that's how statistics even speak. I'm not religious, so this cartoon says that I'm not religious, why should I bother about communalism and secularism? It does not mean whether you are religious or not, if others are there, then it's going to affect the country, and if it's going to affect the country indirectly, it's even going to affect you, and that's what we're talking about. Now let's consider some of the points here. Gandhiji used to say that religion can never be separated from politics. What he meant was that religion was not any particular was not any particular religion like Hinduism or Islam, but moral values that inform all religions. He believed that politics must be guided by ethics drawn from religion. So he was talking about the ethics, which should be drawn from the politics, and that is why he said religion can never be separated from politics, because our values and everything, they are so interlinked with so many things, and that's how politics show. They're saying that somewhat be guided. He believed that politics should be guided. Mahatma Gandhi, that politics should be must be guided by ethics drawn from religion. The religion shouldn't guide you, but it's the ethics and values, which are drawn from religion, that should guide you. Human rights groups, when we talk about human rights groups in our country, have argued that most of the victims of communal rights in our country are people from religious minorities. You will see it a lot of times. They have demanded that the government take special steps to protect the religious minorities. A lot of times we see that there is violation of human rights just because some person or an individual or of a group, they belong to certain religious minorities. And when we talked about women's movement, have argued that family laws of all religions discriminate against women, whether it is Hinduism, whether it's Buddhism, or whether it's Islam. They said that all the religions discriminate against women. So they have demanded a government that they should change these laws to make them more equitable. They said that it should be more equal, irrespective of being divided on the gender issues. All these instances involve a relationship between religion and politics, but they do not seem to be very wrong or dangerous. Ideals, and values drawn from different religions can and perhaps should play a role in politics. People should be able to express in politics their needs, interests, and demands, and um, as a member of religious communities, those who hold political power should sometimes be able to regulate the practice of religion so as to prevent discrimination and oppression. Yes, that is right, but then it has to be seen also, not to what extent, whether your right is being affected, your right is affecting other person also. These political acts are not wrong as long as they treat every religion equally.